February 20th, right? 21st, sorry. 6 o'clock, February 21st. This is the Madison Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. We're calling it now to order. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Jake, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so just so you're aware of the agenda tonight, we have two sets of cases that are related to STR applications, and we cannot seat a 5-member board tonight for those cases because of people who are recused. So both the parties involved in all of these cases have replied in writing, so we will address the question of continuing those cases first, and then we have two cases that the same age format construct, and then and after the few administrative items, of course, you're welcome to stay, but then the administrative things may not be interesting to you. Yeah. Okay. So we have permission of the agent to address these cases as a group. It involves case 2312, continued from October, by attorney Matt Johnson. Case 2313, case 2314, case 2315, case 2316, 2317, case 2318, case 2319, case 2320, skip 21, case 2322, case 2323, and case 2324. All of these cases are represented by attorney Matt Johnson, and he has requested to continue the case until the March meeting. Kate, what's the date of the March meeting? 20th?
Yep.
March 20th at 6 o'clock here at the school gymnasium. Can I entertain a motion from someone on the board?
So moved.
Okay, Doug moves. Second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
George seconded.
George.
All in favor of continuing these cases, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have continued all of attorney Matt Johnson's cases as requested to the March meeting. The time is 6 o'clock in this gymnasium on March 20th. We have one more case that's related to this short-term rental situation. This is case 2325 by Ms. Rishi Saxena and Abhishek Sahai. They also have requested in writing that we continue their case until March 20th at 6 o'clock here in this gymnasium because they wish to have a 5-member board. Can I entertain a motion?
Motion.
Jay moved to continue their case. Second. George seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have continued case 2325 to March 20th, 6 p.m. in this gymnasium. Okay. That brings us to case 2401. I need to ask Mark, Mark Olson, I'm going to raise you to a voting member.
Okay.
For this case and for the next one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a 5-member board for this case. Okay.
Need a motion for that?
No, I don't. Actually, I have the authority to do that.
Okay.
I realize I left my sheet at home. Do you happen to have a agenda planner? So we have a set procedure which we go through on this process. And then once we take care of the initial administrative things, then you'll have 5 minutes or so to explain your case. We'll give the opportunity for anyone else in the public to make a comment. We'll swear everyone in who wants to be speaking to this particular case.
He'll have one then.
Oh,
You just gotta find
do
it.
you have, I left my agenda sheet home by accident. Do you have just an agenda planner? Not the agenda, I'm sorry, you know, the meeting checkoff list.
For you, you're going to
Case
list
checklist,
to
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Hold on.
It's an old one, but it'll work.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
He's got one.
I got one.
Oh, he has one? Okay.
Yep, we're fine.
Yep, I have it right
Okay,
here.
so
Sorry.
first order of business, we go through all the board members. If anyone has a known conflict of interest with this case, Kate, before we start that though, would you read the postings and the nature of this particular case?
Okay. So, case 2401, variance request from Kevin Hart, project manager, Cormac Construction, agents are William Zering and Christine Lanners, 1532 Village Road, tax map 117, lot 59, from Article 4, Section 4.5C of the zoning ordinance permit the construction of a boardwalk / pedestrian bridge to access client's seasonal dog on Forest Brook within 50 feet of a wetland that's greater than 0.25 acres in size and within 75 feet of a stream, i.e. Forest Brook. Article 5, Section 5.9A of the zoning ordinance permit the construction of a boardwalk pedestrian bridge to access the client's seasonal dock on Forest Brook within 75 feet from the center of Village Road and within 25 feet from the west boundary line. And Article 5.9C of the zoning ordinance permit the construction of a boardwalk pedestrian bridge to access the client's seasonal dock on Forest Brook within 75 feet from the mean high water mark of Forest Brook. Let's see. Certified mailings went out on February 8th. Postings were done at the post office on February 9th. Published in the Conway Daily Sun on February 9th, as well as the website. The only mailing, I did get a phone call yesterday from Nancy Silva, and she called and said that she did receive her document. However, it didn't come, the certified mail came to her directly instead of her going to the post office to sign for it, but she does have it, so it came in a magazine. That's how she got it. So, I felt that that was notice, because she let me know.
I do have one question with respect to this particular case. That is, one of the abutters is listed as town records listed property is unknown. That's lot 118-1. Do we have any information about that? How did we deal with that in the notification?
I don't check, it's not part of what I'm responsible to do, is to check those.
No, that's true. Well,
But
okay, let me ask,
let me,
let's see, Mr. Hart, right?
Yeah, I was referred to by, is it Linda in the office?
yep,
She had told me that if the list's unknown, there's really nothing we can do to list it as part of the abutters, which I did, but nothing was sent to them because there's no information addressed.
Okay, which one is that, that was listed as an abutter? I mean, how did you list that?
I believe it says unknown.
you put unknown on the listing sheet as unknown.
Oh, okay,
I almost lost it.
okay, you have that and you have it as unknown.
Yeah, on his sheet, yep, he has it as unknown. So I can't mail it to somebody I don't know who it is.
Yeah, okay, already answers my question.
1913.
Well,
It's been around a while.
it's been around. It's not our problem this evening,
Yeah.
right? Okay, can I poll the board for, okay, so for the record, then all of the abutters, except for the one which is listed as unknown, have been notified and they received their
Yes.
documentation.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any abutters here tonight? You're an abutter for this, okay. Okay, so, board members, checking if anyone has a conflict of interest in this particular case. Mark?
No.
Doug?
No.
I do not.
Jake, no?
No. No, okay, so board members, we do have a 5-member board, okay? Was there a waiver request here? No, I don't think so, right? We have a certified, from Horizons Engineering, certified plot plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So there's no waiver request, excuse me?
For you.
No, I just wasn't sure if you were asking her or me, so we both answered at the same
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay, so now we pull the board for regional impact. Does anyone on the board feel that this request has any kind of regional impact?
No.
Doug, no. Mark?
No.
No, okay. No.
No.
No, okay, so we don't feel there's any reason to contact any other towns. Okay, so at this point, I would need to swear in everyone who intends to speak to this case. So if you intend to speak on this case, then please rise. We can swear you in later if you change your mind, but I prefer to do this all at once. Okay, so raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving pertaining to this case will be truthful and the penalty of perjury?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this point, you have 5 minutes of presentation. I need you to come to the microphone, state who you are and your relationship to the case, and then make your presentation.
Great. So my name is Kevin Hart. I'm a project manager with Cormac Construction right here in Madison, on East Madison Road. I'll be representing both Christine Lanners and William During, the owners of the 1532 Village Road residence where we're requesting the variances. I am accompanied by James Hayden of White Mountain Survey and Engineering, who completed the original wetland application plan. Our clients, Christine Lanners and William During, would like to build a boardwalk that will allow them to access their temporary dock on Forest Brook. We are requesting this variance because the location of the dock, which has been approved by NHDS wetlands, as well as NHDOT, does not meet setback requirements per the town of Madison zoning ordinance. A couple of main points which were brought up in the application are the only location NHDS would approve of the boardwalk is the planned location, which has a close proximity to Village Road and property setbacks. The owner's access to Forest Brook is cut off by wetlands, and this location for the dock and boardwalk provide accessibility to the water with the least impact to the wetlands. There were some other plans that were considered originally that NHDS and the wetlands decided that they would have too much impact. This was least impact option. Structure is elevated 2 feet from the grade, which will allow vegetation to grow underneath and will provide less impact to the wetlands than repetitive walking and dragging of kayaks. The minimum impact to the wetlands from construction would be less than the continued impact of accessing Forest Brook without a dock or elevated boardwalk in place. It is for residential use on private property, and it will not affect the public's access to Forest Brook. There will also be substantial site protection during the construction process to prevent debris from entering Forest Brook and the wetlands. Many of the houses close to and around Silver Lake have docks and accessory structures similar to the boardwalk and dock. Improvements to residential properties will increase the property value of not only the owner's property, but also the neighboring properties with no negative effect on value. And that is my summary.
Okay. So we have, all right, 3 different, okay, just a second, let me get this straight. So one of the requests is because it's within 75 feet of the stream. One of the requests is it's within 75 feet of the center line of Village Road. That's an ordinance, a Madison ordinance issue, not a right-of-way ordinance for the state. And the third issue is that the dock. Now, somewhere you mentioned 25 feet, within 25 feet of the property line setbacks. I don't see that. I heard it mentioned, I don't see that here. I'm just curious, can you, I also didn't see it on the diagram.
On the drawing is what you're wondering?
Well, there was mention of 25, within 25 feet of the west boundary line Is that,
Yeah, the west boundary line goes right down the middle of the,
It's right down the middle of Forest Brook.
middle of the Forest Brook, so it's right here.
oh, I see, okay. Okay, so, all right, so let's just make sure. Our summary then is correct in that this is just getting our ducks in a row here. So the seasonal dock on Forest Brook is within 50 feet of a wetland that's greater than .25 acres and is within 75 feet of the stream. It's within 75 feet of the center line of Village Road and within 25 feet of the west boundary line. So those are the 4 points that we're talking about for a variance.
Yes.
And any questions, board members?
You said it's to access a temporary dock. Is it one that's already there?
It's not there currently, so it is approved by wetlands to have a temporary dock, so they have a wetlands permit.
Okay.
And the wetlands permit is 2022-00513. That was part of the application as well. For the variance.
Yeah, for the record, we have the file here if any of the board members want to view it, but I have seen the wetlands application has been approved.
Is that,
Though for the record, we also don't have to have that in hand in order to act on this
Come down
variance.
the little embankment there, and is it just, there's a wood structure over there? Is that where,
I believe that's the kayak rack
Yeah.
that was existing when they purchased the property, but that is roughly the area where the dock would be.
okay.
Yep.
and it's
Because I
gonna be a
saw-
floating dock, or is it, I mean, how is it?
It's not a floating dock, it sits on the bottom of the floor, but it is adjusted, the bottom of the water, but it
Okay.
is adjustable.
Okay,
And it's built by All Docks, which is a manufacturer right in Tamworth, New
so
York.
it's gonna have an aluminum frame and,
Yep, aluminum frame,
Gotcha.
and it's technically a seasonal dock.
and they'll remove it for the winter and,
Yep, that is correct, so Eric will be coming in and removing it for
yeah,
them.
okay, good.
So by temporary dock, you mean seasonal
Yeah.
dock? Somebody used the word temporary, but,
I use the word temporary, yeah, so it's a seasonal dock. Yep.
okay, all righty. But it's permanent installation intended, or at least,
Yeah, so the boardwalk will be permanent installation.
right.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean is, the location of the dock is going to stay there, it'll just be removed seasonally.
Correct.
Right, yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple
Sure, go
questions,
ahead.
that's okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
Question on the project drawing. There's an indication, it's under section 7. There's a whole discussion of a boathouse. I'm assuming that's an oversight from whoever did this, that there's not going to be any boathouse there.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar, since we've started with Cormac, there's been no talk of a boathouse, but maybe James would possibly be able to elaborate further. I know he did the original plan.
state your name and who you're with in the relationship.
Yeah, James Hayden, White Mountain Survey, Division of Horizons. That's just a typical no block, so the boathouse is not applicable to this
Okay,
project.
so there's not going to be any boathouse at all, just,
Just boardwalk seasonal.
This is
Okay.
boilerplate.
Yep.
okay. Just another question. My wife made a comment about Forest Brook being sort of narrow in that area. What type of watercraft are you looking at? Because there's a lot of pontoon boats on the lake.
Yeah, so the clients both use kayaks.
Okay.
And a lot of the boardwalk and the dock installation just has to be with them being able to safely get in and out of their kayaks. And currently, it's kind of hard to get down there and drag the kayaks down, so.
Right.
It's also a safety reason for the owners. They'd feel a lot more comfortable.
Right. Just one other question. On the diagram here, it doesn't really show where the 230-foot long boardwalk is going to go. Is that going to run right along the edge?
So the 230-foot boardwalk was the original plan, and there has been revisions to the plan. So that is currently what is planned for construction, which is quite a bit less than what we had. It's about 50 feet of boardwalk compared to the 200, which originally was going parallel with Route 113.
Okay, well, is that reflected in your permit from DES?
It is, yep.
Okay,
And I'm happy to provide documents that show that.
because that's been updated.
It is an update, and it's been updated with NHDS, and I do have an email confirming the updates. And
Okay.
So I'd be happy to share that information.
No, it talked about it, and I go, okay, where is it? I
Yeah,
thought
so
maybe it
that was part of the original plan. The clients decided to go with a much less minimal of a project.
Okay.
Not only budget-wise, but also it seemed to be unnecessary.
And you said DES agreed with that?
Correct, yep, the wetlands permit has been updated.
Okay.
So, to get from the road to the boardwalk, they're gonna have to walk down that bank. You're gonna put stairs in there, or are they gonna tread down the dirt to get into this place?
Yeah, so they don't have to walk completely down the bank the way it's positioned, but they will have to walk partially down the slope to get to the beginning of the boardwalk.
Okay.
But yeah, they won't have to walk completely down. That's currently what they're doing.
Yeah.
And there is no sign of erosion. It's very well grassed, so.
That is, they walk out to the road,
Yeah,
effectively down to the bridge almost, and then come down the bank, as opposed to walking across the bottom of the bank.
That is correct. Yeah, the bottom of the bank is, it's wetlands area, so it is
Right, yeah.
wet. So this was the least impact to the wetlands, to walk along the road and then just cut in right by the bridge.
They'll be storing their kayaks in that area.
Yep. I believe they'll be storing it on the dock itself or on the boardwalk when it's not in use.
they're gonna take the kayak rack out, or they're gonna leave it there?
No, I believe they take it out for every launch. Yep.
No, the kayak, the kayak rack that's already built there?
Yeah, that would be removed. Yeah, that
Oh,
wouldn't stand.
they're gonna get rid of it?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just to be clear then, what we're looking at in the submitted diagram is a relatively short boardwalk that cuts just across what would be, I guess, the northwest corner of the wetlands, and is then directly attached to this small dock. And those items, as you've mentioned, encroach on the 75-foot setback. I assume, is this line, it's hard for me to read that. Is that 40 feet from, that is where the line of the wetlands begins, 40 feet from the center of the road? I don't know exactly what that means, or how far.
Yeah, it's about 45 feet from the center of the road to the beginning of the boardwalk.
Something like that, okay.
Okay.
And so, just out of curiosity, how far, what is this arch?
That's not the center of the road, that's to the far side.
No, what's this arch, why don't you come up here for a second and just answer the question here. This arched line that cuts across here, that obviously represents a particular measurement with respect to some things.
Yeah, I believe that would be the boundary line, James. Is that correct?
Says WMS&E
Yeah, that's the
disc
boundary.
set flush.
Yeah, this is the right-of-way line right here.
And that would be the White Mountain
That's
survey
their property
disc,
line.
right?
Yep.
Oh, that's actually the property line.
This is the right-of-way line right here, yep.
Oh, so that does encroach slightly on the,
Oh, these are gradient lines.
Yeah, those
yeah,
are
those are
great.
gradient lines, yeah.
Is that the curved one you were talking about?
No, I'm talking about this line here. I was
Okay.
curious what that is. That's the
Okay.
property line.
Yep.
So this is actually part of the state's right-of-way,
All through here, yep.
all through there, okay.
And they do have an NHDOT encroachment agreement.
Okay, well, yes, okay, so, and then, so what is the distance for the right-of-way here? I thought it was 26 feet from state routes, but from the center of the road, but that's not that distance. It's much greater than that there. Or,
Appears to be 49 feet
Looks
from
like it
the
says 49 feet from the far side of the
That's the
road.
far side of pavement,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably more like 35 feet to the center line.
alrighty. Okay, that answers the questions as far as that. Board members, any other questions?
How have they been using this prior to this being put in?
It doesn't exist currently. There's no current dock or boardwalk in
Right.
place.
They've just been walking down that hill.
Yeah, they've just been walking down the hill and launching
they-
their kayaks and getting their feet wet and having trouble getting in and out.
Yeah.
So they're hoping to make it a little easier.
You do have a DOT encroachment agreement.
Yep, so that was part of the documents sent in. I have a copy here as well if you'd like to overview.
Yeah, I wanted to show it.
Sure.
Technically, we don't have to have those in hand. We can make it a condition if they aren't there.
Okay.
But since they already have. So how much is that encroachment there? That looks like 2 or 3 feet, or
Thank you.
do you?
Yeah. It's less than 5 feet coming up the back. We just wanted to tie it right into that grade, to
Right, yeah.
have an estimate tie in.
And described within the right-of-way as follows: a 4 feet wide walkway with its edge approximately 2.2 feet and 6.2 feet from the edge of right-of-way within the 50 feet from center line of highway right-of-way.
Okay, that answers the question.
Yeah.
50 feet of,
50 feet from the center line of the highway? Because this drawing has 49 feet.
that's from the wrongs, that's, yeah.
Within 50 feet from the center line.
Within 50, not
Within
at
50 from the center line.
Oh, within.
Yeah.
And this drawing shows that it's on state highway state highway property, the foot of the beginning of the walkway?
The first couple feet are, yep.
And do you have state New Hampshire highway?
Yes, that's what Jake's got in his hand.
They're allowed 2.2 feet, 2.2 feet and 6.2 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. So a 4 feet wide walkway with its edge approximately 2.2 feet and 6.2 feet from the edge of right-of-way within 50 feet. So, anybody want to see this?
I have a question, Jake. That says a 4-foot walkway, wide walkway? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be 4 feet? Because this drawing says 6 feet.
Yeah, so it's 6 feet at the dock, and it is not as wide at the earlier part, if you can see.
Yeah, it's bigger.
Okay.
So it
Thank
is
you.
it's
Where it doesn't
skinnier
look
from the
like it.
beginning,
Okay.
and then towards
Oh,
you
I
get
see.
to the 6 by 15 dock, it is also 6 foot wide.
Oh,
This
there you go. Okay.
part of it is
It's hard to tell by the drawing.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, was this originally going to be 200 and some odd feet long or something?
It was, yeah, and
Okay.
we reduced it, and because we reduced it and it's smaller than the original impact,
Yep.
that we don't have to change all the language per NHDES.
Yep.
And like I said, I'd be happy to share the emails that show that.
Yeah, so just,
And that's why the 4-foot difference between the 2.2 and the 6.
Yeah. Originally, it was marking out this
Right,
corner
this and
and
that.
that corner.
Well-
As you take that angle going down.
Right, as it's 4 feet wide.
Right.
Yeah, got you covered, okay.
and it was originally covered for, it says 228 feet, but they want to go smaller than what was approved for anyway, so,
Right, okay.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I just have one.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Your permit, one of the requirements is that it was recorded with Carroll County. Is that permit revised been recorded, or has the original one been recorded?
To the best of my knowledge, it has been.
Okay.
I don't know, James, can you, I know originally it was done.
It was done 2
Yeah.
years ago.
The original wetlands permit?
Yeah, it looked like 2022, probably a year ago then.
Yeah. So one of the conditions of approval was for it to be recorded at the county?
Yep.
Was that a state requirement? Oh, normally the state doesn't require permits to be recorded.
It
They're
was
just
it's in the permit.
in the wetlands permit? Okay, well, yeah, we can check on that to make sure that it is. Yeah, I mean, it's as easy as calling the
What I don't want to
registry.
have is, we jumped the gun and when,
Right.
Of course.
Well, we don't actually have to have that permit, even if it's required, in hand in order to decide on the
Okay.
variance. But we can make it a condition that that permit is provided.
yep,
Right.
Of course, yeah, that's reasonable.
Right.
okay.
And how do they get to the end of this walkway?
The beginning of the boardwalk? Yeah, just by traveling alongside the side of Route 113.
Okay.
Jump over the barrier.
And how about vehicles? Potential cars or trucks parking there?
Yeah, I think the intention would be to park at their driveway right here if they had to park a car close by, but they've never mentioned any plans of having to drive a vehicle down there or park by the road.
So it's all kayaks that they,
Yeah, they don't have a boat or anything. They're just avid kayakers.
I don't think you could park there.
Yeah, like
can't.
you mentioned earlier, it is pretty narrow.
And there's
of course.
barriers on the sides, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, yeah. And it's not a boat launch, it's a kayak dock.
Yeah, kayak dock.
Right, yeah, in other words, they're not gonna back a trailer down there to put a
thing.
You'd be surprised. I see that at the boat launch.
Well, no, I
sometimes.
understand, but my point is though that
I know, I'm just making a joke.
how someone might abuse it is beyond the purview of this board.
They're gonna be jumping jet skis out of there.
I think I've had a canoe over my head and been yelled at by the state.
Oh, the lake host?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't launch a canoe here.
Yeah, I have no more questions.
Okay, okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
And
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this case? Okay. Mark?
shoreline protection permit?
Yep, yeah, we have the wetlands for a permit.
No, wetlands and shoreline?
You don't need shoreline. You don't need shoreline because it's a wetland jurisdiction project. So because you're impacting a wetlands, the Wetlands Bureau takes over and you don't need to do a shoreline.
Oh, okay.
If there was no wetlands, we would need a shoreline permit because we're within 250 feet, but because it's wetlands, it supersedes shoreline permits.
Print them out if you want to look at them.
I can read it right now.
No, the last page.
Okay, so if, then let's collect the statements of fact that we want here before we close the public hearing. So the board members assist me on this. First statement of fact is the project has been reduced in size
From 228 feet in length.
Yeah, from 228 feet alongside Route 113 to about how many feet is it?
4?
The current boardwalk?
Yeah.
Is about 45 to 50 feet.
Yeah, to approximately 50 feet. Parallel to the Forest Brook. Okay, to wetlands. And what do we call that, DOT permit?
DOT encroachment easement.
And DOT encroachment easement are in hand. Third point is that this provides the least impact on wetlands of several proposals. And four, it actually provides less impact on the wetlands than not having a 50-foot boardwalk and dock. 5, the dock is intended for the use of kayaks
On a seasonal basis.
or similar small boats on a seasonal basis. Other points of fact that we want to include. Do either of you gentlemen want us to record any other particularly relevant findings of fact in this case?
I think I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Do we put on the statement of facts a condition?
No, the condition would be.
come afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we want a
At the
condition,
motion.
yeah, we would make it as part of
Decision.
part of the decision, and of course, the condition is only required if we grant the, yeah, the variance. If we don't grant the variance, then
Goes away.
condition's irrelevant, yeah. Mark, any other points of fact you want to add, Doug?
No, I think that's enough, yeah.
Okay, all right.
George?
In which case then, do you have anything else you want to add?
I do not at this time.
Okay, then what we do at this point is we will close the public hearing. This then becomes a public meeting. That is public in the sense that the public hears what's going on, but there's no further contribution from the public. And that'll be our deliberation. Can I,
Make a motion to close the public portion of this hearing.
Second?
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we're now in a public meeting and we are deliberating, you know, the merits of this case. We do have, as has been the habit of Horizons, a relatively thorough explanation of the 5 points. And for your information, we have 5 criteria that we have to use. For the benefit of the public, if a variance request meets all 5 criteria, then the board is basically obligated to grant the variance because it has, you know, it grants the rights of the property owner
They also
that
did,
variance over, you know, any potential impact.
they did a write-up for each.
Right, they did,
Ordinance.
yes, they did, right, for each of these things, although they're very similar in their
Yeah.
their nature. So, any comments from the board before we go through the 5 points, point by point? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, so we can lean on some of the wording here. Little enforcement of the provision of this ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship as follows. This begins with where we usually end, but that's okay. Literal enforcement of the provisions would result because special conditions of the property distinguish it from other properties in the area are the location of the wetlands in particular relative to the access to their, to Forest Brook. And in particular, it's the only location that NHDS would approve for this. The property is adjacent to the river road, has wetlands across the parcel, rather than in one area. The owners do not have a way to access the temporary dock without the boardwalk unless they walk across the wetlands. The structure is elevated and it will provide less impact to the wetlands than a repetitive walking and dragging of kayaks. And thirdly, the proposed use is a reasonable one owing to the conditions identified because the boardwalk is a reasonable use because it's a waterfront structure that has been approved by the NHDS waterfront access with the least impact to the wetlands. Minimum impact from construction will be less than the continued impact of accessing Forest Brook without the dock. So, any comments on that question of hardship?
No, you look around at the other properties along Forest Brook, and I don't have a wetland map in front of me, but I don't think anyone has one quite as large denying them access to Forest Brook.
Okay, the variance is not contrary to the public interest because it is for the residential use on private property and will not affect the public's access to Forest Brook. We know also there will also be substantial site protection during the construction process to prevent debris from entering Forest Brook, or the wetland. Do we want to add anything to that? Not contrary to the public interest?
No,
I would say we could add to that that there's, it poses no health or safety risk since it's on private property.
Just a question.
Yeah.
People that walk along that area and look down there and see this walkway, what would prevent them from?
The state laws of New Hampshire.
Well, yeah, but is there,
We,
how would they know?
yeah,
I mean, it was asking me.
It's,
oh,
Yeah,
well, actually, we're not supposed to
Yeah.
ask questions at this point.
so, it's no different than if you're walking by a field.
okay.
It's, even though it's not posted, you're not allowed on there. And if somebody does go down there, the owner would have to go down and say, hey, get off my dock.
Yeah.
It's private property. They could eliminate all this by, putting up a private dock, no trespassing sign. There's actually one on 41 that are on that steep portion.
Yeah.
Up
right.
at the road, it says private dock, no trespassing, because there was a question posed to the police department about that,
Yeah.
same exact thing.
Because this is a distance from the house and where they live, so that's why I'm saying
Yeah,
that.
it is a reasonable question to raise whether or not someone who, for example, was right there at Kennett State Park and decided they wanted to, go down a little further and, enter.
Maybe fish or
Maybe they would want to enter that way.
Yeah.
And because, like you say, there's no house right next to it. But I think Jake is correct. If that is a concern, it becomes a problem, then we can just put a sign up.
Okay.
It is a
That's-
concern of the owners as well, and they have communicated with me that they plan on posting the dock to
Okay.
protect themselves.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed because the boardwalk is raised 2 feet and will allow vegetation to grow underneath. It will limit the wetland disturbance compared to the impact of walking on grassy wetlands or dragging a kayak across the grassy wetlands. Comments there? Anything you want to add to that? Granting the variance to do substantial justice because it would allow the owners to access their waterfront safely without additional wetland damage, as the boardwalk is an accessory structure to, necessary for safe access to Forest Brook. Values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because many of the houses have docks and accessory structures that are close to and around Silver Lake. Improvements to residential properties generally increase property value. So, do we want to add anything else to, I think our findings of fact are consistent with the suggested answers to the 5 criteria that we have that have been provided by the agents. Does anybody add anything to the criteria? Mark, do you want to object to something, or?
Were we going to do conditions?
Well, we can do conditions if we want, but
Well,
go ahead.
I'm concerned about the slippery slope of motorized use. As everybody says, well, we're going to carry our kayaks, and all of a sudden there's an ATV backing down with a,
Well, they wouldn't be allowed to operate it along Route 113. That would be operating a OHRV on a public way, so that would be illegal. And they are allowed to park along 113 as long as they're off the pavement. I mean, you see people at Kennett Beach parked all up and down the road, and as long as they're not inhibiting the flow of traffic, there's nothing we can do, because it's completely up to the state whether or not to post along that road. But yeah, if they were riding 4-wheelers up and down beside the road, that'd be an issue the police department would address.
But that's a steep bank on that side of the road. You're not gonna drive a four-wheel drive there. You're gonna be down in the wetland even to move along there.
you should see where they go.
No, I understand. But I'm not gonna drive on 45 degrees. No one is.
Okay, you raised this in the context of a condition. What condition would you?
Just no motorized use.
Yeah. Because I agree that while they may not be putting something motorized onto the dock from the road, it's easy to park a jet ski there. They could launch a jet ski any place and park the jet ski there. And I
That would probably be a Marine Patrol thing
And I-
too, because I don't know if you can operate gas-powered anything up Forest Brook. That would be,
think you cannot.
that'd be a fish and game thing, yeah.
It
It's a
is.
level 4 waterway, I think, isn't it?
Those over my head.
But that doesn't mean they won't do it.
Well, it also doesn't mean that we can't provide a condition.
Yeah.
And that's where I was going with this.
Right, I
We're
mean,
not-
it
If
is.
if
it
we're
is
not
within our
taking away any
purview.
rights, we're not taking away any rights, we're just expressing our concern.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, Mark, is that you would like a condition on the assumption of an approval of the variance that restricts the use of any motorized vehicle or watercraft accessing that dock,
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. yeah.
something like that, right? Do you want, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Hold that thought, though. We'll wordsmith it in a minute. Okay. Are there other comments, other conditions? No. All right. Just before we get into this, is anyone leaning towards opposing accepting any one of these particular conditions or changing them significantly?
I think you're fine.
Okay, all right, then let's refine the condition. On the condition that no motorized,
Watercraft.
well, it's not just watercraft, it's also, right, you're thinking.
Yeah, anything with a motor on it, whether it's
right,
watercraft or
Watercraft or,
your ATV.
okay, I'm just playing with this for a minute. What I'm gonna do is on the condition that no motorized watercraft or vehicles access the dock
Period.
from, either period or either from the lake
Well,
or the road.
watercraft's got to be one way, ATV's got to be the other way.
Yeah, okay, so
I
we
would just put
pick
period.
Okay, access the dock, okay. On the condition that no motorized watercraft or vehicles access the dock. Does that cover your concern? Okay, then, do we want to build a motion on top of that? We move to approve the variance because A, it provides less wetland impact. Than not having the dock and boardwalk. Something else you want to add because it provides less impact?
And it gives the owners ease of access to their property.
Safer and easier access.
And because, okay, substantial justice is done. By allowing owners
Safe and sane access.
safe and sane access.
To their waterfront.
I just like that.
That's a professional term right there.
Wordsmith.
That's going to be institutionalized now. Mark Olson once said, safe and sane, that's going to appear multiple times.
I've used it as a weapon, though, so.
Not here, though.
It may be safe, but it's not sane.
Okay, so here's
Reasonably.
a suggested wording. Move to approve the variance because it provides less wetland impact than not having the dock or boardwalk. And it provides substantial justice to the owners by allowing them safe and sane access to their waterfront, on the condition that no motorized watercraft or vehicles access the dock, period.
Good.
Sounds like a winner.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second?
Okay, I heard George first.
Okay.
So I moved that. Kate, George second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so we have unanimous vote to approve the variance request as written with the condition as stated. Okay, so Any person affected has the right to appeal the board's decision. If one wishes to appeal, one must act within 30 days of the date of this notice, day one being tomorrow. The necessary first step before any appeal may be taken to a higher court or the Housing Appeals Board is to apply to the Board of Adjustment, that is us, for a rehearing. The motion for rehearing must set forth all the grounds on which you base your appeal. Board members are advised to refrain from any discussion of the appeal with other board members and any other parties to the appeal until all further appeal periods have expired. Thank you. We will give you a letter of decision within 5 days. But the decision is made tonight.
Very good, thank you. Very nice.
Okay, so at this point, we will need to get my papers in order, and then we'll go on to the next case.
I believe it's going to be Kevin again?
Yes, it's Mr. Hart again. Yes. Okay, so you know the drill this time, so I won't explain it. Kate, would you read the application and the report on notifications, et cetera?
Okay, case number 24-02, variance request from Kevin Hart, project manager, Cormac Construction, agent for Ramesh Indrakanti and Kamina Indrakanti, 391 Conway Road, tax map 628, lot 57, from Article 11, Section 11.4C of the zoning ordinance to permit the interior renovation of an existing space above a detached garage which creates an accessory dwelling unit that is greater than 800 square feet minimum. Postings at the Conway, wrong town, Madison town office, post office, on February 9th, website February 9th, Conway Daily Sun February 9th, certified mailings went out on February 8th, and everybody's been noticed.
Okay, everyone's been noticed. Notices were posted correctly?
Yes, everything's good.
Oh, right, okay, so we're all clear on that. Okay,
Yep.
so let's get one thing clear. How do you pronounce your name? Indrakanti? Or how do you say it? Indrakanti. I mean, just, it's important to make sure we, okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, board members, for this case, Mark,
We're going to switch.
no, we're not going to switch. Because, no, Bill explained to me why, that's fine. You're going to do this one as well.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 5 board members tonight for this case. Mark, do you have any conflict of interest with this case? Do you have any conflict of interest?
No.
Doug?
No.
I do not.
Jake, no.
No, okay. Board members do not have any conflict of interest. Let's see. Do we have a waiver request on this? Is there a waiver request?
There is a waiver request.
Okay. And,
There's no changes to the footprint.
oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, there's no changes to the footprint, so. And this only has to do with the footprint of the house and not with the measurement. Okay, so does, okay, okay, so the technicality here is that the dimensional request for this has nothing to do with the measurement on the property. It has exclusively to do with the size of the existing structure. And we have a plan, both a tax document and a plan here, so it would seem that it's a reasonable request not to have a certified survey for this. Mark, would you agree on this, since you?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Can I entertain a motion to accept the waiver request?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Second?
okay,
Jake?
yeah. Who was the second? Jake? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we approve the waiver request. Does anyone on the board feel that this has any regional impact? George?
No.
Jake?
No.
No?
No.
No.
No, okay, so there's no regional impact, which means we don't need to inform any other town. Okay, so you know the rules of procedure, basically, we are considering 5 criteria. And you have, go ahead and present your project.
I don't have to be re-sworn in.
Actually, technically, yeah. Kate, do we do this case by case, or once we've done it for the evening?
I would do it as a new case.
Okay, it's a new case, yeah, let's swear you in, just so that,
If you said the beginning for all of them, then you'd get it, you could do it, but.
yeah, right, exactly. Do you swear that the testimony you give pertaining to this case will be truthful under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, so come up to the mic, state your name and your relationship to the case, and then give us your,
So my name is Kevin Hart. I'm the project manager for Cormac Construction. I'll be representing Ramesh and Meena Indrakanti, the owners of the 391 Conway Road residence where we are requesting the variance. My clients Ramesh and Meena Indrakanti would like to add bathrooms, a kitchen, and bedrooms to their existing detached garage, which is already a finished space. The interior remodel will allow the owners to use the space most efficiently and add sleeping space for extended family and guests during visits to Madison. The owners also understand the zoning ordinance associated with short-term rentals and have full intentions of following the law. Some main points I have for the project are that the footprint of the space is already existing and completely finished on the exterior. Current finished square footage is over 800 square feet maximum size for accessory dwelling units. We are not adding an addition to the space that increases the current square footage above the maximum square footage for ADUs, but are only adding bathrooms, bedrooms, and a kitchen that will change the definition of the existing finished space to an ADU. It is for residential use on private property and meets all requirements of an ADU with the exception of the maximum square footage requirement. All setback requirements will be met and the ADU will not affect the public's access to Conway Road. Completing the accessory dwelling unit will also add value to the owner's property value, which improvements to residential properties will increase the property value not only of the owner's property, but also the neighboring properties with no negative effect on value. Also, as mentioned earlier, the owners have a full understanding of the zoning ordinance associated with short-term rentals and have full intentions of following the law. Thank you.
oh, okay. Explain the layout and how you came up with the square footage.
So yeah, the square footage is what is there for, there's a breakdown on that page for the unfinished square footage and the finished square footage. That is the square footage of the first floor and the second floor.
Finished space, first floor. Second floor, okay, and okay, so just, okay, lower level's the garage, right? That's not coming into question.
That's correct.
And so the first floor level is what you're talking about, and that, you're saying, is 638 square feet finished.
Yes.
And then you're going to add the bathroom on the second floor. Okay, so, wait a minute, finished space.
The garage and the next floor, I think, are the same as far as square footage.
So,
Yes, no.
okay, so the total finished space is 1,417 square feet.
Right.
More than the 800 allowed of all floors combined.
Of the 2 floors.
Well, I'm just reading why it was denied.
Well, yeah, the reason why it's denied is because the ADU has to be 800 square feet, or this is almost twice that.
Yeah.
Is the bathroom then effectively 638 square feet? I'm not,
What's the question on the plans? Would you like me to come up and?
yeah, let's sort this out here. So, this is the garage, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And then this is the, so what's the outside, what's the inside, what are we talking about outside dimensions? And are you figuring square footage based on outside or inside dimensions?
It's the square footage of,
I mean, it's going. That's what
No,
this
the
right
question
here.
is, are we measuring square footage from the outside wall or from the inside wall?
Okay.
Shouldn't it be from eave to eave?
I'm sorry?
Shouldn't it be from eve to eve?
Well,
Here's right-
outside wall,
here's
outside
the-
wall
The
generally.
window, the door.
But when we talk
there.
about
Here's
footprints,
the double
we
doors.
include eaves, right?
Here's the window.
Footprint is different than square footage.
I believe it's from the outside walls. I could definitely confirm with our architects.
Okay.
The size, Ramesh, of the size of the building, do you happen to know the dimensions from the outside? Because that would,
Inside wall to inside wall.
sure, yeah.
Bench and
25 by,
door to be removed and replaced with a.
Okay, so then what's going on
Because
upstairs?
they've got two doors there.
This
They
is
don't-
clear
They
what
don't
this
need
is.
another door there.
You've got
Yeah,
a
okay.
stairwell coming up, you've got a kitchen and a dining area and living room and a bedroom here.
Yep.
And then-
The upstairs is a bedroom as well as a full bathroom with a laundry space.
And it's under the roof eaves, so that's why it's 638 as opposed to 779.
Correct.
What is that space now? Is it finished or is it,
Yeah, it's completely finished space. Has wood flooring or vinyl flooring that looks like wood, drywall, insulated. It's essentially a recreational room / storage space.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah, I was in it.
Yeah, I believe. George stopped by, right?
I stopped by a couple years ago, so I know what it
Oh,
looks
you
like.
did? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
When it was for sale, I looked at it.
Oh, okay.
okay. Okay, so questions from the board?
I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead and ask now.
After you.
No, go ahead.
I know they acknowledge that the town ordinance on the short-term rentals, has it been rented within the last calendar year at all?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. He's shaking his head no, just for the record. So thank you for that.
Since we took ownership of the property, we have not.
Thank you.
Who is he?
He's the owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Introduce them.
Ramesh, you've been there since 2019? Yes, no?
Well, do we want him to come up to the mic?
If you want to ask the owner a question, then we need to swear him in, and that's okay.
Yeah. Or maybe Kevin knows that. When I think he said to me that he owned it since 2019.
I do believe that's correct. I wasn't
Yeah.
involved in it previously.
Yeah.
2012.
Okay, so my only question is, it's one thing if the requirement's 800 square feet and we're bumping it up to 850 or 900 because that's the existing thing. Now we're talking about 2 levels and we're bumping it up to 1,400 square feet, which is significantly beyond.
With a structure this tall, is there any easement from the third story or second story? Is there, or not easement, egress? Or-
Yes. So in the plans, we're actually changing a window to allow them to have a fire escape.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to ask that. But there is no construction from the outside. And the inside is really, basically finished, except for converting it now into a ADU.
Yeah, right, I understand, yeah. I just, one of those,
It's a unique situation.
It is.
yeah, question, yeah, I know.
I think if they were adding an upper level that wasn't there, but it had to be okayed prior to this.
And they bought it with this structure already on place.
Yes, yeah, there has.
Yeah, no, that's clear, yeah, that structure was there, it was a finished space. Yeah,
I just wanted to make that clear, because it's not like they're asking to build something.
No.
They've already, it's already been there, and they're just looking to, I guess, essentially just completely finish it off.
Right.
Do you know, okay, this goes a little bit beyond zoning directly, but as an ADU, it's rentable when the owner's there. What's that?
Beth, talking to myself.
Oh, okay.
For not less than a period of 31 days, I think it is. For not less than a period of 31 days.
30.
It can't be.
Is
an
it
S-
30?
It can't be an STR, in other words.
Yeah, they put the time frame in the new transient housing
Right.
ADU ordinance.
Is that being changed now, or was that changed last?
That was in the 22 change.
22 change, okay. Well, where I'm going with this isn't so much the details of that, as much as whether it meets the fire ordinance issues. Are they intending to rent it out in any?
The clients have not communicated that they've intended to rent it out on any, from my understanding, it's being used for family visits,
Yeah.
guest
right,
visit.
Yeah, right, yeah. How about septic tank, if they're adding two bedrooms?
Yep, so there has been a change approved with the state. There's an added septic tank that ties it into the existing system. And we have a letter from David Clough, the septic designer, stating that the current system is adequate for the additional bedrooms.
So you have one that says it's adequate, but you guys are still adding, or you're adding just piping into it.
With the additional, yeah, we're not changing anything with the septic itself,
Yeah.
but there has been an additional septic tank added
Okay.
for the potential ADU.
Two tanks, one leach field.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's approved design through the state. David Clough did the design, and we have a letter from him stating that it is adequate for the added 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
And that's state approved?
Yes, that is correct.
So now it's approved for a 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath.
Ordinance.
Yep, and we have a letter from David explaining that as well.
Just a comment, it would be nice to see a plot plan that shows exactly how that's going to happen, because we don't know what's happening outside.
Yeah.
And if
I'm
he's-
happy to
if he is
provide
adding
a septic
fire
plan or a plot plan.
That'd be good. Thank you.
then
Yeah, and everybody has friends staying, that sort of stuff. It's not being used as primarily as a.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only question is, what do we do with the fact that it's significantly,
it's essentially a second house. It's so large.
well, yeah, that's, I mean, as an ADU, I mean, the other side of the coin is that, I'm just thinking this through, is it, I mean, the room upstairs exists already anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I guess that was my thought process is
Both levels exist.
they inherited this building when they bought it.
Yeah.
They're just looking to finish it off.
is there a door between the first and second story?
Yeah, the stairs.
There would have to
And
be, I
there's-
believe, if they're gonna have sleeping quarters, right?
Yeah, so there's currently a door going from the garage to the upstairs, to the first floor, and there is, don't believe there's a door going from
Oh, yeah, right
the
there.
first floor to the second floor.
As you go up.
Yeah.
There is a door. Oh, okay, so there is a door added.
Yeah, that's, well, this is up here, right?
No, up is, you go 2 steps landing and then up the tall, it says up this way.
And there's a door here as well. There's a door.
That looks door to be removed and replaced with new window.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the stairs, on the first floor, the door to access the second floor.
Just for orientation, the top of the stairs is this long part here.
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
Well, I guess, well, let me just speak crazily here. It's an existing structure. If the first story is the ADU, and the second story is an additional bedroom, because there are doors separating them, is the whole thing an ADU, or did we, do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, on the wild end of speculation, is this, if just the first story is an ADU and the second story is an extra bedroom, or is it because they're connected? Do you know what I mean? I suppose
Well,
I think
the first story is less than 800 square feet.
Well, I think the ADU ordinance specifies one building containing A, B, C, and D.
Well, right, but the first story contains sanitary units, a kitchen, bedrooms, you know, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
the first story meets the conditions of being an ADU. It's
Oh,
just-
so you're saying,
Well,
I
the
get what you're
first-
saying.
So all I'm
first
saying is
story
the second
doesn't have a
story is a
bathroom,
bedroom with a bathroom
It's, and there's no kitchen, so it cannot be considered an ADU.
But,
in and of itself.
Right.
but it's all of one
I
structure.
agree, yes, it's all one structure.
And George, there is a half bath on the first floor.
Oh, is there? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, you're right.
That's wrong. There should be a full bath on the first floor.
As we get older,
Well, it's only that, it's a laundry room up there, too.
Yeah.
Deny the variance.
Okay, so, what, comments, questions? I mean,
do we have to deal with this?
do we have to deal with what?
800 square feet in total? ADU limited to 800 square feet total, both floors.
Well, that's the reason they're asking for a variance. So
Because it's more than 800.
it's more than 800.
Well, then this should say that.
What are you looking at?
Yeah, that's on the other side of that one.
That looks like no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See?
Garage, first floor is 26 by, is 832 square feet. Second floor, ADU limited.
800 square feet.
That, well, no, the point is that an
That's the
ADU,
variance.
that's just a statement of fact.
Yeah.
And that is, there is no ADU. This is the tax card.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. I mean,
This was prepared on the 18th, so it's not, it's a tax card, but it's not, how do I
Well,
put it?
can you explain that?
Did you make these notes on here?
What does this mean here?
I didn't do any of this information here.
Bob,
This is from the town.
yep, this is Bob's.
Oh, is this what code enforcement officer provided? to
Yeah, I
you
believe
guys?
that's what Bob provided for us. So maybe those are his notes potentially.
Yeah, his point is that the ADU has to be limited to 800 square feet.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Well, I think, in my opinion, only that, it says, in no case.
What?
It says the ADU shall in no case be greater than 800 square feet. That's pretty,
Well, the whole point of asking for a variance is,
no, I understand that.
Yeah, we dealt with the same thing when there was a previous case where it said shall not, and there's case law that says we can't rule based on just that alone.
But does the variance ask for a variance greater than 800 square feet? I don't think it does.
oh, yeah.
It asks for a variance to create an ADU, but it doesn't say to create it greater than 800 square feet.
Hold on a second. Yeah, it says, yeah, in order to create a
Accessory dwelling.
accessory dwelling unit that is greater than 800 square feet minimum.
Oh,
It should
Specifically,
800 square foot maximum, that's an error, but it does say,
all right.
specifically in relation to Article 11, Section 11.4C.
Then I am good.
okay, can we read?
I have been
Is
corrected.
that, oh, it's written here, yeah. The
Mr.
ADU
Chairman?
must be located in the same building.
Mr. Chairman, I had a
Yes.
couple of questions, if I
Yep.
can ask them, if I can ask the applicant. On one of the drawings, it says there's a separate electrical panel. Is that also on a separate meter?
It is not currently, but it will be.
So there'll be two separate meters for the primary dwelling and the proposed ADU?
They're gonna have to split the
I
pot.
would have to confirm that honestly with the electrician.
Okay. Second question is, on just looking at, and I haven't been able to look at any site drawings, but just looking at photographs of the area, does this ADU meet the setback limitations off of Conway? Or what are those? Do you know what those are? Off of Conway Road, and then the property as you're facing it to the right, 25-foot setback. Do they meet that?
Well, but
Well-
Bill, we're not,
It's not
we're
part
not
of the,
changing the structure. The
Okay.
structure exists.
Yeah, the structure's already there, so.
Yeah, so we didn't have it resurveyed or anything because it's an existing structure.
Yeah,
I
Kate,
don't know if that answers your question.
and this is a fairly
Well,
new,
no, just that I was, in reading in the RSA's, as long as it's declared as a detached unit now and an ADU, that it has to meet the setback, it has to meet the requirements of the same as a primary dwelling unit. So that's why I'm asking about,
I see. So would this non-ADU have to meet those same setbacks, or is it a different, different setbacks?
I don't know what I'm, because I haven't seen if there's any variances granted for this to have that.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah, so it's unclear to me, but from my understanding, it wasn't part of the variance approval.
Okay.
and that's my feeling, is that Bob, when he went there, the only thing that he found in noncompliance was the over 800 feet of the existing 2 levels. Everything else, I mean, that, from my visual, it complies with all the other.
Building code.
well, there's one other.
Is there?
It's Section A. It requires it to be in the same principal building, in the same building as the principal residence. I know there's that.
Unless,
Unless it's a detail, because we're talking about detail.
There you go.
unless the lot meets the minimum lot size, and actually the lot is what, over 2 acres anyway? How big is the lot?
That is correct. It's 2.9.
Yeah, so, and, you know, it's not in the same, but it's part of the same, effectively part of the same structure,
And
that's
that answers the setback questions as well.
because,
ADU may be located in a detached structure, such as a garage or barn, provided they conform to the required setbacks.
yeah, so actually, Arthur, Kate, do we, can we, yeah, you can speak, let me swear you in, that's no, just, it's all right.
It's a question.
Oh, it's a question?
Yeah, do you know how long the setbacks requirements have been around? Because this
1987.
structure has been there for a long time.
No, this 1987
Yeah. I think
This was fairly.
But
No, the ADUs
so.
haven't,
If the structure is.
No, the setback requirements were set in the
Structure.
zoning ordinance for structures in 1987 with very minimal changes since then.
Right, since this structure was approved by the town, it would have to comply. So
But they could have applied for variance back at some point when it was built.
Well, if they did, then they have a variance.
That's what,
I
yeah,
didn't
that's what I'm
find anything
saying.
in the tax file. I didn't find anything in the tax file.
That was my next question.
I didn't see
Thank you.
anything. I knew that's where you were going.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just didn't get there yet.
Okay, so, yeah, so really, at the end of the day, we're dealing with the major question is whether, how much heartburn we have over something that's almost twice the size of the the maximum.
And that's more for deliberation, right?
Yeah, that's more for deliberation. So we have any other questions?
No. No.
Any other questions, Mark?
No.
how about parking?
Okay,
There's substantial amount of parking on the back side of the house. It actually can't even really be viewed by the road.
And so, and that's where the parking will be for the ADU?
I believe that would be the intention, to have them parked down below.
Yep. And what is a Juliet balcony?
Oh, it just sticks out. It just sticks out like 2 feet.
Potentially doesn't stick out as well, actually.
It could just be-
But it's just essentially that the doors up top can be opened and that there's, however they're opened in, or, however the architect decides, but there's also protection there so that you can't step out. But it's essentially a recessed balcony.
So, so it doesn't exceed the envelope of the building?
That is correct, yeah. And Bob asked that as well when I submitted the permit. There's no plans to build that out right now, and he said if there are plans, then we would have to, re-apply for that.
Let's see this again.
Okay, then, let's collect our findings of fact.
Want to close the hearing?
What's that?
Do we have to close the hearing?
Well, no, findings of fact, we want to leave that open so that if we have a question, we can clarify finding of fact. So, okay. So the primary issue here is the square footage is, what was it, 14? 1417. Which exceeds the 800 square feet by 617 square feet. All right. To the structure already existed. The structure existed prior to the plans to make it an ADU. You can sit down if you want.
Awesome.
Yeah, the structure existed as a... well, okay. Third point is that the interior of the structure was already finished.
Yeah, and there's a list of specifically when they remodeled the garage back in 2015.
What's that? That's
On
yeah.
the tax card, it lists back in 2015 is when they remodeled the garage,
Yeah,
and it was built in '04.
yeah. Okay.
And you can actually park up here.
Okay, there's no other variances or requests on file. Is that right, Kate? Mm-hmm. Right. Anything else? Okay, so I got four things here. The square footage is 617 feet above the minimum at 1,417. The structure existed prior to the plans to make it an ADU. The structure existed as a finished, well, I need to change that word, structure. Prior to making, with a finished interior. Okay, the structure had a finished interior prior to plans to make it an ADU, and no other variance requests, variance or requests are on file, for the property. Okay, those are the four things I have right now. Any other things we want to add? Something else you want to add, Mr. Hart?
Septic system?
Oh, good point. Yeah, the septic system. Has an approval plan, an approved plan. Okay, so, excuse me, where was that? Be good just to go down that list again. Oops. This is the trouble with having all of these things, the little, that section that had the
highlighted portion?
that listed the, we quoted the, yeah. Yeah, right. I have that right here. Where do I? No, I don't have it. All right, that's all. I'll look on yours. The requirements, ADU shall meet the New Hampshire building code, state fire code. minimum of 2 street parking. Okay, parking, there's adequate parking. Let's see, I already mentioned this. Okay, so these. Okay, so I guess we have the things that are important. There's sufficient off-street parking, the septic system being upgraded. Has it been, or is it being, or you'd say,
It's been upgraded.
okay, septic system has approved plan and been upgraded.
And you did get the letter certifying that it meets the increased demand.
Yeah, I have a letter by the septic designer, David Clough, that explains that it does meet the demand of the
Perfect.
added 2 bedrooms. So I'd be happy to share that as well.
Okay, so does anybody have any other questions, or we need to list any other?
I guess I have just a question. Twice the applicant mentioned about following the law with regards to short-term rentals in
Yeah.
town. Does that need to be added in as a fact, or?
Oh, we can mention that.
Well, that's-
Well, let me ask, when you say that, what do you mean? What's the intention regarding short-term rentals?
Yeah, the intention is to follow the laws of the short-term rentals and to not use it as a short-term rental. The intention is to use it for family and guests that visit.
Okay,
And that's why I asked that question earlier about if within the last 12 months it had been, and
Let's put that into the fact that the owner does not intend to use it as
Okay.
an STR.
right, the owner. Okay, but the owner understands the town's STR policy, STR ordinance, and intends to use the ADU for friends and family. Okay. Anything else we want to add? If not, then we can close the public hearing.
I'm good.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Someone moved to close the public?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Mark? Close, okay. Okay, unanimous, we've closed the public hearing, so let's begin our deliberation.
The elephant in
As
the room.
is usually, yeah, I mean, the big question is whether, okay, hold on a second, we have, I've only got one page here. Application for a variance. Do you have,
Do you need another one?
well, just a second, I'm missing, I've only got 4 sections.
You need this?
Where'd the other page go? Hold on. Building permit, just 1 second, application. This should be it right there. Yeah, I got it, okay. So it's the problem of having information that's not stapled together and just shuffle it around, and just get separated.
Way too much paperwork.
Okay, so these, we can take these and arrange the questions. Let's take them in reverse order. Number 5, which usually is our number 3. The values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because completing the accessory dwelling unit will add value to the owner's property value. Improvements to residential properties increase the property value, not only the owner's property, but also neighboring properties with no negative effect on value, et cetera. His fourth point is granting the variance will do substantial justice because it would allow the owners full use of the space above the garage, which is already an existing finished space. They're not adding an addition to the space that increases the square footage above the current maximum, but are only adding a bathroom, bedroom, and a kitchen, which would change the definition of the existing space to an ADU. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the current space is already finished and existing. Adding a bathroom, kitchen, and bedrooms just allows the owners to use the space more efficiently, and adding sleeping space for extended family. The variance will not be contrary to public interest because it is for residential use and a private property, meets all the requirements of an ADU with the exception of the maximum square footage. All setback requirements will be met and the ADU will not affect the public's access to Conway Road. That's consistent with the findings of fact, particularly with parking spaces. Okay, facts to support the request relative to a hardship. Literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship because the special conditions of the property, footprint of the space is already existing and finished on the interior. Current finished square footage is over 800 square feet. There will be no change in the footprint, however, adding the bathroom, kitchen, and sleeping spaces make the space an ADU. Owing to these special conditions, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance and the specific application because the current structure exists and doesn't require additional exterior construction to create an ADU. The proposed use is reasonable. It's on private property, doesn't require additional exterior construction. Building a new structure to meet ADU requirements would result in a construction of another structure on the owner's property, which is unreasonable given there is already an existing vacant finished space on the property. So point is, if he wants to create an ADU because we don't want to let him, it seems unreasonable to make him do that. Okay, so those are his arguments. Support them or counter them? Mark, comments? Okay.
No
I
comment?
think they're all valid.
I mean, it's existing space,
Yeah.
same envelope, same footprint.
Yeah, even if we played games by saying, well, let's put a lock on the door so that it's,
Only one story instead of
You
two.
end up parking and septic and
yeah,
health, safety, and welfare.
make an exterior stairwell so that the units are not connected, whatever. Comments? Question?
Having been in there, I said, oh my God, this is, just lends itself to what we're proposing or hopefully considering tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a finished building, it's already there. He inherited the structure as it is. You know, he's acknowledged he doesn't plan on turning it into an STR, then I don't oppose the idea. It's not going to affect anyone but themselves, I feel.
Okay, well, we could consider, even in light of the fact that he's acknowledged that, to make it a condition that it not be used as an STR, except in the, you know,
Friends and family.
yeah.
I mean, essentially, it's nothing more than internal renovation, that's all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I mean,
but that's true of all.
Technically, it goes into an ADU, but really, it's just an internal renovation, and it's,
Yeah.
Well, it's the same question of the existing unit.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if he chose to do this without putting a kitchen in, would it be an ADU?
No.
No.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, so if it was just,
Yeah, a couple of bedrooms and a couple of bathrooms, then it would be fine,
yeah,
yeah.
I think it also changes the fire codes and stuff and what Bob Boyd might be looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
well, okay, so we could, if we approve the variance, what I'm hearing, not that we want to, but there are two potential conditions. One is that it meets the fire code regulations. And then the other one would be that it's not used as an STR.
Right. I agree.
Can I speak to that?
Yes?
If we go down that road with an ADU, do we have to go down that road with every single house that's non-conforming?
No, we consider every case in its own on its own merits with its own conditions, so no, this has no precedential value.
No, I'm just saying, if, why are we considering the aspect of STR? Just solely because it's an ADU?
Just because we don't need the
Because as-
121st one.
No, and I'm just saying, as we've seen, people have built entire houses in this town specifically to rent out.
Right.
So whereas he's on record stating he doesn't intend to rent it out, he hasn't rented it out, based on what we've looked for in the in short-term rental cases.
Yeah, this is on record anyway, so why bother to formalize it further, is what you're saying.
It is on record.
Exactly, and if it is something you guys would want to look for, you would have to ask the question of every new structure built.
Right.
Yeah, but that would be the selectman's job of putting that on the top of a building permit, saying that Madison disallows STRs if you're building a new structure or remodeling anything for an STR.
And you would hope it was, the realtors knew the laws in the town they were selling.
Realtors?
I know, right?
Know the law?
Well, okay, let's not get beyond the purview of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, but-
Okay, let's not divert.
Oh, come
okay?
on, come on.
Come on.
Let me
okay.
take a cheap shot.
We are dealing with the question, okay, here's what I'm hearing, okay? We have on record the fact that the STR question is understood and will be obeyed. We have on, as an existing condition for the building permit, that it has to meet the fire code. So we don't have any particular reason to be concerned about fire code or anything else. So are there any conditions that we are concerned about?
No.
Okay, do we want to move to approve the variance? Okay, so then, I'll just motion to, and Kate, like normally, I'll make sure you get these wordings tomorrow. To approve the variance because substantial justice is done by allowing the owner efficient use of his property with no impact on the health or safety of the public. And let's see. And because the special condition of the property is that the structure already exists in finished form and meets all the conditions of an ADU except maximum size. Okay, so we moved to approve the variance because substantial justice is done by allowing the owner efficient use of his property with no impact on the health or safety of the public, and because the special conditions of the property is that the structure already exists in finished form and meets all the conditions of an ADU except for the maximum size. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Seconded.
Seconded? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
You can,
Okay.
you can put me as Jack and Kate,
You seconded, right?
that's fine, yeah,
Okay, you're gonna be.
that's fine.
Okay, and then that's a unanimous yes. Okay, so we have approved this variance request as of this evening. You'll receive a letter of decision within 5 days. If one wishes to appeal, one must act within 30 days of the date of this notice, day one being tomorrow. The necessary first step before any appeal may be taken to a higher court or the Board of Housing Appeals is to apply to the Board of Adjustment for a rehearing. The motion for rehearing must set forth all the grounds on which to base your appeal. Board members are advised to refrain from any discussion of the appeal with other board members or any parties to the appeal until all appeal periods have expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we'll actually get some finished.
Yeah.
You guys have a great night.
You as well.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have one or two small items to take care of.
Should have made him put a full bath.
Okay, we have the minutes from the special meeting of January 9th. However, it requires 3 people to approve those minutes, and we do not have 3 people who are at that meeting here. We will continue until a further date when Sharon, Doug, and George are all present and can approve those minutes.
Kate, I was not present at this meeting.
Oh, did I put you on there?
Yeah, and that I led the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I guess I had you on there. Which one on the 9th?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, it's because I copied.
it's all right.
Yeah,
I will take you off.
Boilerplate carried.
Whoops. I'll take you off.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
With regards to these minutes, there's, the applicant, is this, what I'm trying to get at is these are still draft minutes.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Until we approve them. Does this affect what's going to happen with the applicant? Because I understand he was, potentially could be looking, or maybe that's still in the work, going to the housing court, or,
No, we'll get to that.
Yes,
Oh,
we're
okay.
going to address that question, but to answer your question directly, is that the way we work things is that within 5 business days, anyone is allowed to request a copy of the draft minutes.
right?
And they are advised that until the board has approved the minutes, that there may be minor changes. But everyone is allowed
To see them.
to see the minutes, and until the board approves them, they're considered just that draft minutes, but it does give a reasonable indication of what does, if someone's trying to, for example, create an appeal.
Right.
They have something that they can refer to.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we, since we've addressed that question, let's go ahead and do that before we address the minutes of January 17th. We did receive a written amended appeal from Mr. Gage. And Kate, did the board get that? No, okay. So Kate and I reviewed his amended appeal, and here's the situation. Just by the book. First of all, we made a decision at the November meeting. I've forgotten, I think it was the 19th, right? And so-
15th.
The 15th. So he had basically until December 15th or 16th, depending how the days fell, to submit a request for rehearing. He submitted that request, and because of the way the dates fell, we had to have a special meeting in order to answer his request for a rehearing before the January meeting took place. That meeting took place on January 9th. The rehearing was denied. At which point, he had 30 days to take his appeal to the Housing Board of Appeals, or the Board of Housing Appeal. What do they call it? Board of Housing Board of Appeals, or the Superior Court. Instead, he amended his request for rehearing and sent it to us. However, he had to reply to us for any requests within 30 days of the original decision. And his only appeal after the January 9th decision was timed on 30 days after January 9th. Or perhaps if we wanted to give him a little leeway, Sharon signed the decision on January 12th. And under certain circumstances, had he appealed and filed on January 9th or before at the Housing Board of Appeals or the Superior Court, then he would have had a case. He did not file there. Okay, so we have no further jurisdiction on whether or not to rehear this case. And I just want us to understand that he did appeal to us instead of the Housing Board of Appeals or the Superior Court. And we know for a fact he did not file there, so this case is over and done with. However, somebody might come out, so all appeal periods have passed at this point. So we shouldn't be discussing it. If somebody asks you about it, the answer is he appealed for a decision or for a rehearing and was denied, and he did not file for a further rehearing according to the procedure required within the next 30 days. That's what it boils down to. We're simply acknowledging that. Does anybody have any questions about that? No. Nope. Okay. Just so we can enter that into our minutes, that we did receive a request to rehear the rehearing over which we have no jurisdiction. And we know that he did that instead of filing at the Superior Court or the Housing Board of Appeals. So he has foregone his ability to appeal that case. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. So Kate, then, will you or will I or Chris answer him, or does he?
I don't, well,
I mean, I guess he wrote to me formally, right? So I suppose we should at least respond in writing and say,
I'll ask Chris, because when I had mentioned to Chris about how I've tried to get in touch with him in the past, Chris told me not to reach out to him. So let me check with him first. I don't want to do something that we shouldn't, so.
no, that's true. But since he wrote us a letter of appeal, I mean,
I'm going to run that by him.
He's appealing.
I'm going to run that by Chris before.
that's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so then let's go to approving our minutes from January 17th. Did anybody see, anything in here that needed to be addressed?
I did.
Yes. Mark?
Oh, no, just little things. On page 4, motion by McAllister to approve the minutes as amended. The motion passed. I did not vote because I was not at that November 15th.
Huh, I'm making up people.
Yeah, I know, you give me credit for what I don't do.
Sorry, Mark.
Demonstrator stated that a planning board meeting, it was mentioned, not is was. And
Where's that, Mark?
Under administration?
Page
under
4.
administration,
Oh, okay.
it should be it was and not is was. And then that same paragraph, the last line, the planning board is 13B, which is no more regulatory expansion of non-conforming. Regulatory
That's
expansion?
what it said.
Okay, okay,
I didn't make that up. I didn't pull that out of the air.
okay.
Wait a minute, so
But
what's
I
it?
can change it if we need to change it.
No, if that's
I
good,
have
that's
no
good.
problem.
Sounds safe and sane to me.
Excuse me, how should that sentence read?
In that same paragraph on page 4, Olson stated that planning board items are too late.
Right.
And there would be no sufficient time for a public hearing, and the only thing the planning board has is 13B, which is no more regulatory expansion of non-conforming use.
What do you mean regulatory expansion? Is that the wrong word?
No more,
You can change it, and I can change it, I don't mind. No,
no more, you could just cross it out, no more expansion.
sure, I can do that, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that sounds better. No
Do
more
whatever you
expansion.
want.
So just the proposition is that it gets rid of that 50% rule of expansion on non-conforming,
No more expansion, yeah,
just period.
yeah, just no more expansion,
Right, which means any expansion comes to us.
right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Yes.
Mark.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And then one
More
more,
work.
one
Well,
more.
well, then, you know, that whole lawsuit that was before we got this board sat, that with 13B and trying to define what is,
Yeah, what's the footprint and how does it?
yeah, and how do you multiply that? And my other heartburn with these minutes,
And on page 5,
Okay, George has something on page 5.
right, down near the bottom, if you go 2 paragraphs above the highlighted adjournment, it says McKenna stated he would appreciate it if once the minutes are
You
approved.
would appreciate it if one, that's fine.
Is that all right, say he would appreciate it if, okay. So I'll leave that.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I just thought he would appreciate if once the minutes are approved, that the selectmen are made aware of what has happened.
McKenna stated he would appreciate it if, once the minute.
So that can be left.
Yeah,
Maybe you need a comma.
Yeah,
Well,
It can be
No,
done
no,
either way.
okay, now that you read it like that, just sounded. Okay,
And the other thing, and I'm going to lose this battle, but that will not stop me from making it,
Is it going to be a safe and sane argument?
is that I just think we should not attach things to the minutes that were just put on the table. I'm really uncomfortable with the letters in the back.
but I don't know how to deal with it when they're read into record. I'm not gonna type all those out.
Would that be a procedural thing, not for approval?
well, excuse me, yeah, just a second.
I mean,
Right,
if you read the minutes, you get to these, and it isn't what happened at the meeting. It was what somebody put on the table.
And I have something to expand on that.
Yeah, let's talk about this for a minute, because the alternative is these things were brought, and they could just be entered into the record.
They put, and they should be. I mean, it's valuable opinions, it's what these people
So in
believe.
other words.
They
what I-
should be part of the record,
So
they
in other
shouldn't
words,
be
what-
part of the minutes.
Right, so what you could say, just as an alternative, is that at the end of the minutes, Kate could say, additional documents were submitted during the meeting, which are now a part of the record.
I can do that.
And then, like you say, they're not a part of the minutes, because the minutes are to reflect what took place in the meeting. Unless we actually took one of these and discussed it, then that would be part of the minutes anyway.
Right.
Now, how do I handle it when you read these out loud?
that's what I was thinking.
That's why
Because these
I
were all
attached
read.
them.
Well,
Because
you
Jake
just
read
say
the
a
letters
letter
all out loud.
was submitted by someone
Chris
who
was the
had
one that
lots
told
of
me to
opinions.
attach them, so that's where
Oh, well, okay, well,
I
what we,
can talk to him about that, too.
Could you say a letter was read out loud, see attached letter?
Yeah, see exhibit blank, blank,
Reference.
blank.
Yeah.
yeah, so, okay, so
Well,
the
that's what I
point,
did in the November 15th minutes. I did see Exhibit A
Yeah,
attached
there
here,
you go.
too.
That's fine.
okay, but we have two different situations here. One is, Mark is saying that something was brought in and dropped on the table is not part of the minutes because we didn't discuss it. On the other hand, if something was brought in and we read it out loud in the meeting, then it is part of the minutes.
True.
And therefore, rather than type the whole thing out, it's appropriate to simply say, see Exhibit A, which was read out loud.
But you wouldn't speak to it verbatim.
If you read it out loud,
It's part of the minutes.
Let me get clarification from Chris about it, because
Yeah.
he's the one who told me, when people were handing me all this stuff, I said, what do I do with this? And he said, attach it to your minutes. That's what I did.
Kate, since you're gonna pull it here about attaching letters and exhibits,
Right.
do these letters that people and they want to provide us, if they wish to speak at these meetings, they have to be sworn in under penalty of perjury.
Oh, I think so.
There's nothing to stop anybody from writing a letter in which they are completely fabricating stuff and claiming it as new evidence or anything. If there's no sworn affidavit attached to it, do we
Notarized.
accept it?
Notarized.
Anything, because in a court of law, anything you want to enter must be sworn to.
And notarized, I mean,
I mean, these people's opinion is important,
right.
Absolutely.
but it shouldn't be part of the minutes because wasn't really part of the meeting. I mean, we didn't read them, we didn't discuss them.
Well, some of them have been read.
I
First
mean,
meeting, November
we
15th meeting, they did read them. I
addressed,
don't, I'll do whatever anyone else needs.
we addressed Mr.
I was trying to make it
McKenna's.
easier for everybody to understand what happened, because they handed a million papers 30 pages of paperwork that night?
Well, I think, well, but Mark's point is well taken. There's a difference between something like, for example, this 6 lines of an email. If someone quotes that in the meeting, then it's very appropriate to say, well, Exhibit A was read out loud. You know what I mean? Because that was part of the meeting. But I do tend to agree, if someone just walks in and lists all this stuff, then it's more appropriate to simply say,
But she said she wanted them read at the meeting, so that's why I attached them.
okay, well, if we read it at the meeting, then that's another issue.
So I just don't,
Yeah,
I
but
don't know what to
I mean,
do.
we don't do verbatim on everything. I mean, I could come in and say anything about anybody and say, please read this.
Well, but as I was saying to Kate just a second ago, I think that it's appropriate if in the minutes it says Exhibit G was summarized, was read out loud verbatim, you know what I mean, and then it's attached as part of the record as Exhibit A, but I tend to agree, the
Part
minute.
of the record, you mean put it in
the
the
file.
file? Because people file one document for all these files.
Yeah.
That's what happens. People have asked, okay, I want this in all of these files. Bill's wife was one of them, put this letter in all of the files. She came in and brought me a letter for every single one of these files. So how do I handle that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think because each case is decided technically on its own merits,
Right.
that's not necessarily an inappropriate thing, but we have in the past, received written testimony from people. What was that? There was another situation when I was first here. We kept track
I
of,
wasn't here.
there was a very long, I don't want to dig it back up, but there was a case, if you'll remember, where there was a lot of public, opinion about, their event barn, et cetera, et cetera. And there were just a gazillion people wrote in things, which was their right because we were hearing at times when they were out of town. And we accepted those things and we created a table of summaries of saying, well, these are the things that, so many people were concerned about sanitation, so many people were concerned about, the quality of the road, access, and just, we had like 20 different things that people, not everybody said the same thing, but we categorized that and listed all those things. So I think that it's okay if someone says they'd like something attached to every file, because the problem is that each case is decided on its own merits individually. So that does create a bit of administrative work, but at the same time,
Those opinions are important on
those
each
opinions
case.
are important, right? They're part of the public's right to speak, and from the perspective of the quality of testimony, we're allowed to accept testimony both in writing and verbally.
Yes.
Right. And Jake's point is well taken. If they're speaking verbally, they're swearing themselves in. But if they've provided us a written documentation with their name on it, they can be held accountable to that just as well.
The question I have is, if say, for example, and I think it happened in one of the cases where this person's Kathy Koizel. She's a resident here, but she spends the winter in Florida. She had a neighbor read her letter out loud.
That was at the 15th hearing, the November 15th.
Yeah. Is that, I'm assuming that's acceptable? Even though it's not her, somebody's reading it and saying, I'm reading it on her behalf, she's not here.
Well,
Because anyone can
a
speak to it.
citizen of Madison, who's a taxpayer or a regular resident here, has a right to speak to cases that are in, so there's no, especially something like this. I mean, this is 7 lines. If she had 40 pages that was going to take 20 minutes to read, we would say, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to take the time to read 40 pages in a public meeting. So-and-so has read that and summarized the bullet points of her argument or the such and such. And if she wishes, to contact us further, we're happy to hear. But, we're allowed to make a reasonable restriction on, like if we have 25 people in a room, we can say, after the abutters and the primary people, then we can say, you have 3 minutes. And please don't repeat someone else's complaints.
Right.
And that sort of stuff. So, we need to hear what's being said because that gives us other information. But there's also, the reason why we said that is that, you've got your applicant, you have the abutters, those are the people that have standing, right? So they're the people that can appeal the decision, right? Now, there are, in some cases, people beyond the abutters that would have standing because of their proximity to the location based on the nature of whatever the issue was, so it's not absolutely limited to abutters. So if so if someone wanted to appeal a case because of that, then they weren't an abutter, but they were, next to an abutter, and the problem was related to on-street parking, and they had a wide space, people were parking in their lawn or something like that, then they would be considered to have standing because they're directly affected by the outcome of the case. Do you know what I mean? So, but beyond that, we are obligated to hear the opinions, but we don't have to provide an excessive amount of administrative time to that. Okay, so Kate, why don't you clarify that with Chris? But, and our suggestion, what I hear suggested here is that the way we deal with that is that rather than attaching things to the minutes, we simply say it's Exhibit A in the record.
Okay.
If it was read out loud like this one, then maybe it could be part of the minutes because it was a verbal part of the meeting.
But the minutes can get pretty long.
Unfortunately, that is the case.
And I think that, we got to keep to the meat. And, this last bit is legal opinion.
You're talking about on this particular side?
World in the court world, for the record, is exhibits were attached to documents. If you were filing a motion and you were attaching instead of attach exhibits, that's how I thought of this.
Right.
So I'll have to check with Chris and see what I'll let you know what he tells me to do if I'm doing it wrong, but that's how my brain's working.
Right. Well, okay, yes, we need to clarify because, okay,
Yes.
in the case that it goes to court, then we need to provide a list of all kinds of documentation.
Right.
Which
And
will all
that's what
be
I
in
have
the
to do,
file.
and I have to
Right,
do
but it
that.
goes beyond the minutes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely it does. I've done it twice now.
Right, but my point is that, so the minutes don't have to have all the documentation attached, but the minutes, if something is read in the meeting or referred to in the meeting, then it's okay to list it as part of an exhibit, and label it some way, but I don't know that everything.
I've never seen in 40 years, so.
Yeah, that's fine, but let's clarify it. And Chris may be going a little extra on this because he's looking to make sure that we document everything.
Cross Ts and dot Is.
Yeah, so that's another thing you could clarify is whether it's, his advice is
I will.
related to a specific set of cases. Okay.
Okay, can I ask you a question, just real quick? On the bottom here from this letter, do you normally put the case number above that?
I am, because that's how I can keep it. So I
Okay,
know
that's what I was asking, 'cause so much.
What file it goes, where it goes, because I get, like I said, November 15th, I got 30 documents that I had no idea who even submitted them. I had to figure out who submitted them, because there was sometimes nothing to tell me who did it. And I didn't even, and I had to go back to Drew and get some of them from him, because they didn't submit them. I mean, it was kind of all over the place. That was very, very a rough meeting, the 15th.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask another question?
Yes?
Maybe the board, is it, and I know it came up at the selectmen's meeting where somebody was on the agenda, they made a presentation, and they gave documents to the select board, and they said, whoa, you're asking us to make a decision just receiving these documents. Can you, when you're on the agenda, can you submit them X amount of days beforehand? So instead of having Kate get dumped on the
I
day?
do with the conservation, I don't let anybody put the agenda on, I give them Thursday to Thursday.
Yeah, and maybe something
I cut-
like that,
I do a
especially
timeline.
with the short-term rentals.
not
with
muted.
it.
Yes,
So much.
okay. Hold that, let's come back to that in 1 second. Let's
Okay.
finish the issue with these minutes.
Okay.
And then come back to that question, because it's a very valid question, but it's the next topic.
Okay.
Okay, so we have two alternatives. We can approve these minutes as they are, or we can say, okay, we approve the minutes up through page 5 as amended, and wish to clarify whether the attachments, which attachments need to be made. Or we can just say, wait to approve the minutes until, Kate clarifies that, or we can just approve them as they are.
I've got another question about the minutes, if it's appropriate.
Yeah, if it's about the minutes, yeah.
It is about the minute. So, attendance, there are 3 people attending and 3 alternates. Next thing, elevation says there were no elevation of alternates.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't have to.
That's right. So then, the next page, there was a motion passed by a vote of 4 to nothing. There's only 3 voting members, because nobody was voted. No one was elevated.
Okay, which minutes are we talking about? 17?
Yeah, the 17th.
No, the 17th, we have page 1.
So it says,
Can't have a board.
there's only 3 voting members. So the vote here says 4 to nothing.
Okay, hold on a second, just a minute. That's a good point, hold on. Drew, Doug,
goes for-
George, Mark.
Because there were 4, because Sharon voted.
Yeah,
But she wasn't elevated, whether she voted.
She was elevated.
yeah, she was
Doesn't
elevated.
have to make a motion to elevate her, he told me.
Well, this says there was no elevation of alternates.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that needs to be amended. Sharon was elevated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 4 no.
I knew there was 4.
Okay, so then let's go on to page 4. There's a vote there, 6 to nothing. And on
We
page,
just talked about that.
and on page 5, 6 to nothing.
Okay, hold on a second, hold on.
Can't be.
That,
Page 5, they can, Mark and Bill can vote
But
to
they
adjourn.
weren't
Okay,
elevated.
hold on a
don't
second,
have to
hold on,
vote on
hold on a
minutes.
second. Okay. Where's the vote on page 4?
right here.
Right here.
They're talking about minutes as amended,
Motion.
which they don't have to elevate for.
Oh, yeah, they don't need to be elevated in order to,
Vote.
Not on minutes that they were a part of.
yeah.
It's a legislative thing, isn't it?
And then there's another
God, that was
Okay,
back in-
well, it's the same thing, right?
one. That's
Okay.
what I'm asking. I'm confused that people are voting that weren't elevated.
So on matters of cases, they have to be elevated, I believe.
Okay, well, okay, it's a good point of procedure. The question is, Kate, why don't we clarify that as well? And then let's not approve these minutes for the moment,
Fine.
all right? Because, okay, so one point of thing is that going through our procedures, the chairman, it's the chairman's responsibility to elevate members. It says we don't need to do a vote for that,
Right.
right? So we did elevate Sharon. So the question is, then once the board is sitting there, when it comes to administrative items, then do we default to simply only those who are regular board members for things like, the minutes, or do we default to just who was there? That's a good question. So,
I mean, from my point of view, you don't default to anything. You let the people who are board members and elevated members vote.
Even if they weren't part of that meeting that they're voting on.
Well, then they abstain.
But then the alternate who was sitting on the board doesn't get a voice at what he said in his own minutes.
Because he hasn't been elevated.
well, no, Doug's point is simple. That is, it's not just a matter of the individual case. The question is if, I'll tell you what, Kate, I'll send you the question tomorrow with the other items, so that when you clarify these issues with Chris, we can, then you don't have to try and sort it out, because I understand the issue, because part of the issue is that when we consider case by case, we elevate board members case by case.
I mean, you used to do it by a motion, but then you stopped and you said you
Well,
didn't
we
have
stopped
to,
because the
so-
procedures say that it's just the chairman.
Right.
Right. So but the point was that we were elevating board members case by case, but then we move on to the administrative items, and the question is, well, then who votes on the, that's what you're getting at. Who votes on the administrative items? Because we can have an evening like we could have had tonight, where we had, Mark, for example, in one case, Bill in another, and in another case, neither Bill nor Mark. Do you know what I mean? So then, how do we go about voting for the administrative items? Because, not everyone who is elevated, so that is a technical question. So I think I'll formulate that question for you, Kate, and we'll ask Chris how we do that. And then once that's done, then we'll go back and, because the vote of 6-0 represents what was said. The question is, okay, then we go back and say, okay, well, who was a valid vote? And if it turns out there were only 5 valid votes, if it was unanimous and there were 5 valid voters, then it's 5-0 instead of 6-0, or it's 4-0.
Whatever.
Yeah,
And Chris could speak to that on our non-meeting meeting that night, right?
he could,
He could clarify that for us?
yeah, that would be a way to do that,
Yeah.
if we have time.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, Kate, I'll take care of clarifying the question, so you don't have to address that, okay?
Doug's right, in terms of the first page, we did elevate Sharon.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Okay, so we won't approve these tonight, but we will look at them next week. Okay, and everybody got the notice on the non-meeting, right? Okay.
Yep.
Guess I'm excluded. It has to do with the STRs.
Yeah, apparently, I'm going to ask Chris that question, whether
7th.
Okay.
when we have a non-meeting, whether excluding everyone is a matter of avoiding any sign of,
I had direction from him to do that, that's all.
I understand, but I'll ask him a
No,
question.
that's fine.
No, but I mean, from the learning perspective, I'd rather that all board members had the opportunity.
Right.
But at the same time, his concern is that there is the possibility of it appearing
Is it
that
Zoom?
someone, but it's a non-meeting, so there's no public record of the attendance. So-
Whatever works to keep us out of trouble.
Right, exactly. That's just it.
Makes me crazy is I could learn something
Well, that's what I mean.
valuable
Right,
from this attorney that we're paying money to,
right, exactly.
but because I'm on the planning board, they kick me out of the room. Because they're building a case and we're trying to logically administrate the
Yeah,
law.
yeah. Well, it's not just because of that. I mean, it's the people who've been recused is, and then,
Yeah,
yeah. Like
Yeah,
I said,
I-
I will clarify that with Chris.
I get it, but
Well,
Just-
yeah, I'll clarify it. Okay, and Kate, do we have any other administrative stuff?
No,
All righty. Then we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.